The day Riley walked into that Atlanta office, she had already made a decision that most people her age would never be brave enough to make. She had decided to stop looking rich so she could actually become rich. Riley was 25 years old, sharp as a tack, and fresh into her new marketing job in a mid-size firm in Midtown Atlanta. She showed up on her first day in a clean, simple navy blazer, pressed slacks, and a pair of classic white sneakers. She smiled, shook hands, learned names fast, and got straight to work. Her ideas were good, her instincts were sharp, and she was exactly where she planned to be. But by the second week, people started noticing something. Riley wore the same outfits. Not the same exact outfit every day. She had 3 simple, clean combinations that she rotated neatly. A blazer and slacks, a solid blouse and dark jeans, a simple dress and flats. That was it. Week after week, the same 3 looks, freshly washed, always neat, always professional. Nothing more. And in that office, that was enough to make her famous for all the wrong reasons. The women in that office were dressed like every day was a magazine shoot. Designer handbags, fresh manicures every 2 weeks, lunch spots that cost more than most people's electric bills. On Mondays, they talked about weekend brunches. On Fridays, they talked about Saturday shopping trips. Appearances were not just noticed in that office, they were everything. So when they noticed Riley's rotation, the whispers started low and slow, the way they always do. Did she wear that Tuesday? I think that's the same blazer from last week, girl. Then came the fake smiles and the loaded questions. One afternoon in the break room, a colleague named Danielle looked Riley up and down with a sweet smile and said, "Girl, do you need help? I know some great sales going on this weekend." The other women laughed softly behind their coffee cups. Riley just smiled back, warm and easy. "I'm good," she said simply. "Thank you, though." She poured her water, walked back to her desk, and got back to work.
What nobody in that office knew, what nobody even thought to wonder, was what Riley's apartment walls looked like. Because if they had walked into her small but clean 1-bedroom apartment in East Atlanta, they would have seen it immediately. A big white dry erase board mounted right on the living room wall, covered edge to edge with numbers, timelines, and targets written in neat black marker. Savings goals with deadlines, an investment account she fed every single Friday, the day she got paid, before she spent a single dollar on anything else. A debt column on the left side of the board with a running total that was shrinking every single month. $40,000 in student loans, that was the weight Riley had carried out of college. While her classmates were buying cars and going on vacations and building credit card debt on top of student loan debt, Riley had sat down at her kitchen table 2 years earlier with a notebook and a calculator and made herself a plan, a real one. 18 months. Strict, honest, no shortcuts. She called it her freedom plan. Every dollar had a job in Riley's world. Her rent was fixed. Her groceries were budgeted. Her fun money was small but real. She still lived, still laughed, still went out sometimes. But clothes she did not need, bags she could not afford without touching her savings, brunches she would spend a week's worth of grocery money on just to fit in. No, not yet, not now. Every week, she walked to that whiteboard and crossed off another milestone with a thick red marker. And every time she crossed one off, she felt something. Those women in their designer outfits had never once offered her. Freedom getting closer, one line at a time. The comments did not stop. If anything, they got a little bolder as the months went on. Someone in the office started calling her Basic Riley behind her back, and somehow it stuck. She heard it once in the hallway and kept walking like she hadn't. Her performance reviews were excellent. Her client retention numbers were among the best on her team. None of that seemed to matter to the people watching her wardrobe. There were hard nights when Riley sat on her couch and scrolled through Instagram and watched girls her age in beautiful outfits at beautiful places doing beautiful things, and she felt it, that quiet sting of wanting to belong, wanting to be seen as successful right now, not someday. She was human. She felt every bit of it. But then she would get up, walk to the whiteboard, and look at the numbers, and the numbers always told the truth louder than her feelings did.
18 months after Riley started at that firm, on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday morning, she walked in wearing the same navy blazer she had worn on her very first day. She sat down at her desk. She finished her morning emails. Then, quietly, she printed a single sheet of paper, walked into her manager's office, and placed it on the desk. Her resignation letter. No dramatic speech, no long goodbye, no announcement. She shook hands, thanked people genuinely, and was packed up and out the door by lunchtime. That afternoon, a colleague named Priya was scrolling through a local real estate news site during her lunch break when she stopped cold and stared at her screen. There was Riley's face. She had just purchased a duplex property in Kirkwood, one of Atlanta's most desirable neighborhoods, at 26 years old. And right next to the real estate news was a linked feature interview with a new boutique marketing consultancy. Riley's name was on the door. Priya's mouth fell open. She forwarded the link to the group chat without a single word. The chat went dead silent. Then came the Googling, because once one person looked, they all looked. And what they found was a short interview where a journalist had asked Riley the question everyone suddenly wanted answered. What was your secret? Riley had smiled in the photo, that same easy, warm smile she had worn in the break room the day someone offered to take her shopping. And she had said simply, I stopped buying things to impress people who weren't paying my bills. Every dollar had a job. The women who had called her basic, the ones with the designer bags and the Sunday brunches, screenshotted that quote one by one and dropped it into the group chat. This time, nobody said a word. Here is what Riley knew that nobody else in that office took the time to learn. Wealth does not announce itself. It does not walk in wearing labels or order the most expensive thing on the menu to make sure the table notices. Real wealth is quiet. Real wealth is patient. Real wealth shows up in a clean navy blazer and gets to work while everyone else is busy performing success for an audience that isn't paying their bills. What looks like basic on the outside is sometimes discipline so strong, so focused, so deeply rooted that it doesn't need anyone's approval to keep going. The most dangerous person in the room is not always the loudest one or the best dressed one. Sometimes it is the quiet one in the corner with a whiteboard on their wall and a plan they are crossing off, one line at a time. What you are sacrificing today in silence, the judgment, the whispers, the moments of wanting to belong, that is not your weakness. That is your investment. Keep building, keep crossing off the lines, because one ordinary Tuesday morning, everything you have been quietly working toward is going to walk right through that door, and it will not need to say a single word.